You're probably confused and have no idea what you just listened to. What if I told you that without understanding what you just heard, you could create content about this song and other songs like it? We are here in Greece, and what you just heard is a sample of a popular Greek hit. With the help of Keyword Cupid, we will show you how to automatically cluster thousands of Greek keywords with no manual intervention or prior knowledge of the Greek language. We will then walk you through the results and show you how to interpret the silos Keyword Cupid created. We will also go over how to use Keyword Cupid's on-page recommendation system to make changes to your website. Our hope is that our methodology will give you intuition on how to best use our tool for your own use cases. As a bonus, we want to highlight our algorithm's versatility across languages and cultures. Let's get started, shall we?
Hey guys, welcome to our case study about Greek music. For this example, we want to focus on creating a report from start to finish. We will be using Hrefs to pull the data from. You don't have to use Hrefs, but for this demo, we will be using it. We are supporting other tools and we keep constantly increasing the list. So if you don't find your tool, please let us know. You can start by going to Hrefs and inputting the site of your choice. For this particular case study, we're going to focus on a very popular event planning site around Greek music. It's called creaticinow.gr, and then click the organic keywords to just see what they're ranking. They are currently ranking for 18,000 keywords, which is a massive list. It doesn't really make sense to export that big of a list and try to cluster it, because we're not going to be able to do actionable steps in this kind of thing. We chose to find a way to minimize the list and shrink it as much as possible. So we will be putting the top 10 keywords that the site is ranking for that have a volume of 200 plus and a keyword difficulty of we want to do something like maximum 70. So this should shrink, this should shrink the keyword, the list down to something that's acceptable. Around 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 keywords, I think is pretty good. You can also take a look and just see what keywords emerge here, just to make sure they make sense. If the keyword list is higher than what you want to cluster, it still doesn't matter pulling that big of a list, because we have developed an algorithm that uses a projection, a weighted volume, a weighted average of the volume, and a projection of the keyword difficulty based on metrics that we have found online. We will be going over this in another tutorial, but what you need to know is that if the list that you're inputting has 2,000 keywords, you can also select the 500 most appropriate ones, and we will pick the ones for you. You can click export and you will choose the full export. You don't need to change anything, and you can start the export. After your file is ready, you will be able to upload it to Keyword Cupid. Now that your report from Hrefs has exported, you can go over to our site and go to the main dashboard. Assuming that you have an appropriate package and keyword credits, you can run your first report. You can select here BYOD report, which stands for Bring Your Own Data report. You need an appropriate project for this. If you don't already have a project, you can go on the bottom left, click Add New Project, and add a relevant project. Give an appropriate name for your report. Let us say Greek music. And also select a relevant project. In the data provider, you can select where you pulled your reports from. Hrefs and SEMrush is what we currently support, as well as custom, which means that you can upload your own keywords with or without metrics, following the layout and the template that we provided. We will be going over this in another tutorial. For now, you can select Hrefs, and for the data type, you can select organic keywords. Select the file that you just downloaded and input your report size, which is how many keywords from this report you want to cluster. If you want to put more keywords, if you, for example, don't remember how many keywords there are inside, this is still fine, because if you put something larger, we will only charge you for the keywords that we eventually clusters, and we were able to pull the SERPs from for. For the customization of the report, what you can do is that you can select a different device to pull your SERPs. Let's just say mobile. You can select different browsers. Google is fine. And also the geolocation of where the search will happen. For this particular project, it makes sense to do this in Greece, because we want the context to happen in the country of origin. Another thing you can customize is the on-page URLs that we will be scraping. You can, for the first site that we're going to be inputting is the site that we pulled the data from. The reason is that we want to see what sort of on-page strategy they're employing and where they have the keywords, where they don't, just to get an understanding of how they have been structuring their content. The second site is the site of one of my friends that is also in the same niche and is focusing on Greek music, Greek events. So he wants to also rank for the same keywords, and it makes sense to try and draw parallels with the target site. After you ensure that everything is correct, you can click Run Now. And after the report is uploaded, you will see it in the main dashboard here. It's going to be under status running. After the report finishes, and it's going to go to the status succeeded, and you will be able to view the interactive mind map as well as download the Excel report. You will also receive an email with status notifications. Now that your report has succeeded, we are ready to analyze your results, and we will start by analyzing your mind map. This view is packed with information, and in order to not drag this video into something that's too long, we will be shooting over more explanatory videos as we go. But for the time being, I want to give you a basic intuition of how to use this and try to understand what these results mean. The way that this is structured is in a tree diagram where the parent clusters represent centroid. It doesn't mean that this is going to be the silo architecture. It's just the centroid. It's one of the keywords that emerge from the leaves that is picked as a exemplar, as a representation of this cluster. So if you open this, you will hopefully see more relevant keywords, and this also has to do with the keywords that you have inputted from the report. If the keywords are totally unrelated, then the clusters will not be meaningful. If the keywords have some sort of relationship and we are able to derive context, we will. Usually the way that you can see if this is the case is by this metrics, which is the keyword co-occurrence or cluster confidence. This is a very complex metric. We will be going over it at some other point, but for now, more is better. So 100 is really good. It means that we're really confident about the relationships that exist inside, and that's why it's called as green. It means that there is a cluster inside that has a very strong relationship. So you can pick what you want to analyze first. Let's just say that this has 44,000 impressions, very low difficulty. So let's examine more. Specifically, this one, Dionysus Chinas, is one of the one famous Greek singer, and you can see here that there's a cluster that has to do with age. Ilikia means age. There's a lot of keywords that have appeared which have to do with his age, and that makes sense because he's older. He's around 50 years old. So another interesting part that exists in this cluster is Garbi, which is his wife, and she's also in her 50s. She's 59 years old, and you can see that those things were grouped together, which makes us believe that there is a very good relationship that emerges from the way that people are searching those keywords, that has to do with understanding how what is their age, because they're still producing music, and how they are together. That's why it's grouped. Those are grouped in the same cluster. Other elements that we can search, like we can just look at some examples just to make sure that they make sense at a first glance. For example, notice Pakinakis is another popular Greek artist. Fureira she's a pop artist as well, and you can see here that all of those, we are very confident that all those keywords here make sense. San Caramella is one of her songs and her albums, and they all make very much sense. So if you wanted to target some piece of content, it would make sense to include all of them. But the relationship between them didn't really make sense to me at the first glance, because they have totally different styles of music. Nevertheless, when you search online, you can see that there is an implication between them. There is some sort of fight, there's drama, and there's you can see there's a lot of videos about the one responding to the other. And this is something that we wouldn't know unless we were in the scene, and unless we were very big fans of both people. But using this sort of methodology unravels that there's some sort of relationship that we can investigate more. Something else that emerges here is bouzoukia, which is bouzoukia. Bouzouki is this is the traditional Greek instrument, and bouzoukia is the venues of where this music is played. You can see here that all the keywords that emerge in this cluster have to do with the venues. And not only that, there is a sort of lingo, Greek lingo, which schemata bouzoukia 2019, which means shapes bouzoukia 2019. That doesn't really translate in English. The reason is that because this is a lingo, a Greek lingo, and this still translates to like the different combinations of artists that emerge from in different scenes. And you can see here that if you open, there's 12,700 impressions, and it has all the different sort of combinations of artists in 2019. There's the Tokyo Club, which is parallel one. It doesn't have to do exactly with bouzoukia, but it's still a music venue. Ierao, those here is one very famous venue, and also Vasilis Karas, he is an artist that also performs there. And this sort of cluster unraveled not only keywords about the venue, but also who performs on the venue right now, which is information that we wouldn't have unless we did searches. Let's just look on one more example, just for the sake of it. All right, there's an interesting one. It's called Synboy Mama Stichi, which means lyrics. Stichi means lyrics. Synboy is the artist, Mama is the song. And I'm not going to speak much about the song because I've gone from Greece for many years, so I'm not sure where the music scene has gone, but I will let you judge for yourself. This is an excerpt. Alright, so you don't need to be a foreigner to not understand what this thing says. Even as a Greek, I don't understand. And it doesn't seem that it's only me. All the keywords that emerge here have to do with lyrics. If you see here, Stichi Mama, which is lyrics of the Mama song, Synboy Mama Stichi, it's again, has to do, or 200 strophe, which is the first verse of the song. This means that there's a lot of people that are interested in finding out more about the lyrics, and because obviously you can't really understand what it says. So there is a good intuition that this sort of methodology brings us on the content that we want to create are on a specific piece, where for this particular case we should talk a lot about the lyrics and what's happening behind the scenes. Something else that we should touch upon is the on-page element functionality that I talked about before. As you see here, this is the metrics, the viewership metrics, and it has to do with impressions, difficulty, and CPC that we pulled and aggregated from the reports that you uploaded. This is a summation. The difficulty is a weighted difficulty between the volume and the difficulty of that keyword. So a keyword with high difficulty and low volume is going to contribute less, rather than a keyword with a high difficulty and with a low difficulty and higher volume. But specifically, when you change this to on page, you can also see for that specific website here, you can see the elements of that seem to have the keywords inside this cluster. Let's just say that Buzukia, right? Like the cluster that we analyzed just a bit before, there is 17 of those keywords appearing in titles of that website. There is 21 mentions of all the keywords that emerge here in the contextual links. There is another 17 in sidebars. So once you change this, you can see our target URL, how many of those keywords does it have in different titles. So this will help us understand how we can start targeting different pieces of content and sort of replicating an on-page element strategy that a competitor has. As you can see here, let's just find an example. When the opportunity that exists is when the keyword that you want to target doesn't appear in any of the elements that we have scraped from your page, and if it appears in your competitor, it's not going to be bolded, it's going to be just simple. Let's just see this one maybe. Yeah, let's just say here are those, for example, there are 2 images that have this in either in the source or the alt text for this for our competitor, and for our target we don't have it. So let's just say that we wanted to target this keyword which has 600 impressions for a difficulty of 7. We would want to also put it in the image or some image, or try to replicate what other competitors are doing. That is one way to view it. There is another element, which is, let's just say that you have that you want to target a specific piece of a specific cluster. It's very difficult to understand if you can target the whole cluster because there's so many different keywords. So usually we're targeting just one keyword, but there are ways to do, like for example, this one has 2, 4, 6, 8, around like 10, 12 keywords inside here. So what would you do? Would you put one of them? Would you put like the overlap of them? You would have to do something manually. What we're doing when you're clicking this heart here is that we are doing exactly this. We're trying to find out from the keywords that exist in this cluster, how many of them they don't appear in the elements that we're showing here. Let's say that for the title tag, for example, there's 8 keywords that do not appear in this title, in the title tag. These are a sample of them, just the first ones that we found. And also we are doing something like the most common frequent keywords across all of them. So for this one, it's not as meaningful because it is just 200, which is one of the words in the lyrics. But in other cases where there is a certain amount of words that are repeating again and again, maybe we can use them to put them inside the title tag, for example, and just improve the relevancy of that element of that page, and then improve the rankings as well. There's a lot more to talk about this, for example, like the different metrics, or the ability to just drag nodes around, reposition them, and just eventually save your results in order to create like the clusters that you want in case something is wrong. We will be shooting other videos to go over those things, but for now let's just move on to the Excel report. Now that we have gone over the mind map, we can also focus on the Excel report to just see how you can interpret the results here. It's Excel sheet represents the parent cluster one level from the leaves, which is the most meaningful clusters you can find in the tree diagram. Obviously, you cannot see the further up relationships because there was no way to visualize it in an Excel sheet, but you wouldn't need them because this packs all the information that you would need. The sheets or the clusters are organized based on the volume, the total impressions. So it's guaranteed that the clusters that are first are going to have more impressions than the rest. So you can focus on the first one. There's a lot more going on. You can just spend a while like searching each one of them. When you look inside, you can see that for each keyword that we pulled, the impressions, difficulty, and CPC, this comes from the report that you uploaded. And for each URL that you targeted, you can also see how many elements, how many of the on-page elements appear for each keyword. For example, Romeo appeared here 2 times in the tags, 1 in the header, side by footer, and so as in our target URL. We can also see that for this cluster, there's a lot of H3s that appear in our competitor, and we don't really have anything on the H3s. Also, like bolded and ID tags are things that I was particularly looking when I was doing snippet targeting. So that was something else that I included here in order to be able to see if there is something that emerges in terms of like keywords that have been bolded. Eventually we'll add more as we go, but for now I think this is a good start. Also here you can see the keyword confidence and the cluster confidence inside. So all those keywords that exist here are very tightly related to each other, and they should probably belong in the same piece of content or silo. So this is a good thing to know. This is another example, but this is more straightforward, and eventually we are also showing the first 10 results in case you want to look for yourself, for example, why the associations happened. And you can see there's a lot of Wikipedia articles about this artist, and there's other relevant things. You can find more about our methodology in our website, but for now I think this should give you a good head start on understanding how to use our tool. If you have any questions, please let us know. Thank you.